and welcome to Lauren Reed Color. Thanks for joining me for another video. Today is a little bit different as I don't usually do product reviews, but Arrtx contacted me and generously offered to send their new set of 60 liquid ink acrylic markers to try out. And as I've been using acrylic markers more in my coloring recently, I thought that it would be cool to give them a try. I just want to begin by saying that all of the opinions expressed in this video are my own. I haven't been influenced by anyone or anything, and I will try to be as objective as possible. Following my description of the markers, I will also share some techniques on how to use them. And one last thing is that Arrtx are offering a discount for Amazon Prime Day, and I will put all of the details in the description box. So yeah, let's get started. Let's start with the box. As you can see, it's really beautiful and aesthetic, and it's made of some hard cardstock, so it is durable. You lift up the top, it comes off pretty smoothly, and in the box you have the pens in these trays that you can lift out. Now, one thing I've noticed with lifting the trays out is that the process is not always that smooth, and there are no tabs on the side to hold onto to lift them out, which is also a little bit problematic. In addition, when you take the pens out of the trays, they start to move around, okay? And also when you need to put them back in, it's very important to put them back in with this tab thing upwards. Otherwise, they're not all going to fit into the trays. I think it would be better if there were slots for the pens to fit into. And even better than that would be what they did with their alcohol markers. Let me show you, because I have that as well. So for the alcohol markers, you have these slots that the pens can fit into and stand upright. And if you want them to lie down, which I do, you just, lie the box down and then they're lying down. So I think that would have been a little bit more practical. Nevertheless, I do like the pens themselves. They are really lovely. So let's take one. Okay, so you have this tab that you can hook onto a page if you're, want to keep them around. Each individual marker has a number, and the lid just slides off. And then the pen itself, you have this feed system similar to a fountain pen. So you shake the pen. Okay, you shake it to mix the paint inside because you don't actually need to activate them. There's no pumping action necessary to get the ink to flow. It just flows, and the ink itself is really thick and juicy and flows very easily. I will demonstrate that in a few minutes on an actual coloring page. So in terms of the pens, they're really lovely, and you can see the level of the ink in the barrel as well. So that is really good. In terms of the color range, let me just show you. It does not come with a swatch chart. You have to swatch them out on your own swatch chart, and I have used a swatch chart from Jennifer Stay at Coloring Bliss. So here we go. I have swatched them out. There's a really nice range of colors. Some of them are very similar to their brush marker. They also have a set of acrylic brush pens. Okay, so these are them, and the colors are kind of similar. And one thing that I also think would have been really helpful is if there was a uniform numbering system. So for example, if you had this pink, which is similar to this pink, they could have the same number, or even this one's even more similar to that one. So it would be nice if there was a uniform numbering system so that you could mix and match your markers. The other set of acrylic markers, let me just show you one. Okay, I have these. Okay, so yes, these are the metallic set, but the regular set is very similar. Here, again, it's a brush nib, but instead of acrylic ink, it's just regular acrylic paint inside the marker. In terms of the difference between these two, let me go back to my swatches. There's not really that much difference in terms. I think that the ink in the The new ones, the Arrtx liquid ink, I think it's a little bit more opaque and thicker and less streaky than the paint in the regular Arrtx acrylic markers. Okay, so I think that is one difference. And yeah, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk a little bit about techniques that you can use with these markers. Let's begin with the techniques. The coloring book that I'm using is the Nebulous Stars coloring book. The type of paper in the book is really important. If it is thin Amazon paper, you're going to need some sort of backing sheet underneath to protect subsequent pages. Also, thin paper like Amazon is going to absorb the marker a lot more than thicker paper. You could put a layer of multi-sizing liquid or glazing liquid on top, let it dry, and then put the marker on top, and that will allow the ink to absorb less into the paper. The paper in this book is also quite smooth, which is good for the markers because paper that is more textured will fray the nibs of the markers a little bit more. So this is the page I'm working on. Okay, as you can see, I've tried it out a little bit. I used a technique here with water, which I will talk about, and I don't know, I don't think the results are as good as I wanted. I think this is a technique and I myself need to practice more because I'm a relative beginner to using acrylic markers. Anyway, so the first technique that I want to talk about is just flat coloring. This is when you take the marker and you just put it over an area. So let me show you what I mean. All right, so as I said, it's important to shake the pen to mix the paint, but it will flow smoothly immediately. Okay, no need to prime. So here you can see it goes down really smoothly, okay? And yeah, one layer of flat coloring. Now, as you can see, it's a little bit streaky. All acrylic markers are going to streak a little bit, but yeah, it's really juicy and opaque. And yeah, so this is flat coloring. Now, if you wanted to have a little bit of a smoother texture, yes, with less streaking, then you're going to need another layer. Okay, so it's very important to let the layers dry in between so that you can get a smooth effect. So I would let that dry, and then once it's dry, come in with another layer. Yeah, so let's just let that dry for a minute and I'll talk about something else. Another technique that you can use is to blend different pens together. So for example, let me show you. You can put down, yes, a layer of, let me just shake this one too, a layer of this color. Okay, so let's do it here, right? Okay, now you should really work quickly because acrylic markers do dry quite fast. Okay, and then you can just blend it with this color as well. Okay, and then, you know, you can just work with them together, blending. Okay, another technique that you can use with this is to use a water brush and then blend them out that way as well. Let me just get a water brush and I'll show you what I mean. So you can blend with two different color markers, or you could use a water brush. It should be damp rather than really wet. I think this is the problem that I had here. I used a water brush that was too wet. Okay, and that is why it didn't blend as well. But if you blend it with a water brush when it's damp and not really wet, then you get a better blend. Okay, you can also, what I did here was take it, but see it, I've let it dry. And when you let it dry, it's not going to blend as well. All right, so, but I put down some water and then you can blend it. And then of course you also get the streakiness. Okay, so yeah, that's blending two markers together, blending with water. And of course here, now it's dry, I can put another layer of the color down. Yes, and then the streakiness, as you can see, dissipates. So yeah, they're really opaque and really smooth. when it's 2 layers. Okay, so yeah, that is that method for flat coloring. All right, another technique that you can use is to layer pencil on top. So let's say I put down a flat layer of this color. Okay. You let it dry, of course. Very important to let it dry before you put the pencil on top. Okay, now there are 2 types of pencils. Yes, there are soft pencils like Prismacolor, and there are hard pencils like Polychromos. You can use the pencils on top of the base layer of marker. As I said, let it dry before you put the pencil on top, and you would use a single layer. Okay, if you put more than 1 layer, the pencil is not going to go down as smoothly. So let me show you. All right, so let's take a Prismacolor. Do I have a purple here? Let me just get a purple and I'll be right back. So as I said, you can use soft or hard pencils. So we have Prismacolors for soft and we have Polychromos for hard. And you can use both types on top of the base layer. So let's start off with the Prismacolors. Just make it, yeah, it's dry. And then you can put the pencil on top. Now notice when I'm putting the pencil, you're going to get a little bit more texture with the softer pencils than you will with the harder pencils. Okay, so you can actually see the acrylic marker underneath. All right, but you can definitely layer pencil on top, get a nice smooth gradient, and yeah, that really works nicely. Okay, and then of course you can also use a harder pencil. So these are Polychromos, and again you can layer on top. Now I feel that a harder pencil gives you a smoother blend. So if you want a look that is more textured, I would go with a softer pencil. But if you want a look that is more blended, then go with the harder pencil. Pencils like Polychromos or the Derwent Pro Color are also really hard pencils, and then you're going to get a smoother blend with the pencils, okay, than you would with Prismacolor, which are softer. Okay, yeah, but it really works nicely on top. In fact, I could fix this by blending with the pencil. Okay, so here, for example, I've got less of a smooth blend here as well. And then I can just blend out with pencils to cover up any problematic areas. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, that's blending with pencils. And then the last technique that I want to talk about is using them for embellishments. Now that is more or less what I've been using them for up until now, although I am going to be using them with these other techniques, especially the blending with water. I think that that would be a good technique, and of course the base layer for the pencils. So, but now I'm going to show you the technique that I've been using the most, which is for embellishments. The pages with embellishments that I'm about to show you are all in Dragonspell by Joseph Katzenbang. These were all embellished using the other Arrtx acrylic markers that I have. Those ones I purchased myself. I did not get them for review from Arrtx. So for example, here we have this page, and you can see the marker work here on this moss. So I put a base layer of the marker down first. I allowed it to dry, and then with the marker I used a dabbing motion, yes, and I also smudged it with a Q-tip and then added it again to build up the color. So I did that technique here. Another example is on this page for the bush here at the bottom. Same thing, a base layer of the marker, allowed it to dry, and then dotted it with the tip of the marker in different colors to get that fluffy look. So here on the bush, here on the tree, here on the tree, okay? And then one more, which is a slightly different technique. is on this page. So here at the top, I used the marker to make these leaves. So I have a base layer of pencil, and then I used the marker, made flicking motions to make the leaves. Yes, blended it a little bit with a Q-tip or a waterbrush pen, and then again put another layer, and then it is the pink acrylic marker on top to make the flowers. So yeah, you can use the markers for flat coloring, for blending, for embellishments. They are quite versatile. Okay, so that's it. I know this was a really short video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found it helpful. And overall, I do think these markers are useful, and I'm going to enjoy using them. Thanks very much for joining me, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye for now.